Say hello to our audience. You are listening to the Gemini Legal Podcast focused on the California workers' compensation industry and the faithful practitioners. We are live at the California Applicants Attorneys Association Winter Convention in beautiful Rancho Mirage. I am Dan Mora. I am not an attorney, but I am the founder and CEO of Gemini Legal, a legal discovery company in California workers' compensation. My guest today is the one and only Juan Spencer, the hearing rep and COO of Ratto Law Firm in Oakland. So welcome, Juan.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, happy to have you, bro. What's going on, man? How's life been?
Life has been busy, but good.
Yeah.
A lot going on in the work comp arena.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, I originally was an injured worker. I was represented in my workers' compensation claim by Anthony Ratto, and later on during the vocational rehabilitation process, he offered me a job, and that was the beginning of my relationship with him and also my legal career. That was in 1996.
Wow, okay. Thanks. So that's what, 25 years? Almost 25 years, wow.
Yeah.
So been with Anthony since, and your firm has grown significantly. How many offices do you guys have now?
We have 6 offices.
Wow. Great.
I have not been with him the entire time.
Okay.
After 2 years, I left. I took a job with a plaintiff personal injury firm, and I was with them about 5.5 years. I came back in early 2003, so I've been back since then.
Gotcha. Yeah. Very cool. So you guys have grown very impressively, and I'm curious. What you don't have to reveal any trade secrets, but what's been some of the keys? I can predict that the technology, the expansion of technology, allowing for your distributed offices was some of it, but I'm sure there's way more that I don't understand.
I think some of it was luck. We saw a huge growth spurt during SB 899, and during that time, I think a lot of older work comp practitioners decided to get out of comp. A lot of applicant attorneys then switched sides to the defense, and in the beginning, the majority of the firms in our area didn't even want to accept new cases, and instead of kind of following suit, we did the opposite. We signed up as many cases as we could, and we met with as many people as we could to try to understand how to use the AMA guides.
Very important, right?
Yeah. And, we were probably naive back then, and just kind of took cases hoping that we would figure out how to create value, and it just kind of worked out.
So that was interesting. You mentioned using the AMA guides. So this is something that you did for your doctors. Is that right? Or tell me more about that.
Well, we didn't do that for our doctors. The AMA guides were part of SB 899.
Gotcha.
So there used to be a different rating schedule, the pre-2005 permanent disability rating schedule. And the ratings were based on prophylactic work restrictions. And then when they implemented the AMA guides, the work restrictions were out. And so in order to get your client the best recovery, you had to know how to, build up the ratings.
I see.
So you had to evaluate each body part, investigate all of the symptoms the client had. So, all of a sudden things like seeing a psychologist or a psychiatrist became important. Seeing an internal medicine doctor became important. And paying attention to all the body parts that had not been addressed.
Gotcha.
But there were subjective complaints in the records.
Right. Whole body impairment is what we're talking about, right?
Whole person impairment.
And you attribute the training with the attorneys in your firm is what you mean when you talk about training the AMA guides?
Well, we actually, in the beginning, what we did is we called up medical providers and anyone who was vaguely familiar with the AMA guide. So at the time, there were other states that were already using the AMA guides. So there were some doctors who had already familiarized themselves with it. And so we attended as many AMA guides related seminars as we could, and meetings, strategy meetings, and collaborated with other applicant firms all over the state who were kind of doing the same thing, investigating how to make the AMA guides work, how to maximize the rating for the client.
Gotcha. Excellent. So, I ask a lot of people are asking people about, that fire in their belly, and you have this background of being an injured worker, and I think that gives you an advantage. I've worked with, there's some other people in this industry that with that background, it's become, it's a passion of theirs. These injured workers, they need help, right?
Yes.
And I see the statistics of improper, and in fact in Oakland it's actually the highest in the entire state. There's a 10% improper rate for injured workers. I can't fathom how an injured worker can navigate this system without professional help. Have you had some stories of people that have tried to go improper and then come to you? And
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
There are a lot of aspects of our system that don't make sense, right? And nobody really understands, like medical authorization, for example, or the UR process. The clients think that if the doctor who's on the list that the insurance company gave them, if they recommend some treatment, it should be authorized. And so I would say the majority of the cases we see them because they're medical treatment disputes. And they don't understand the UR-IMR process, or they don't think it's fair, and that's the reason why they seek legal assistance.
Gotcha. Got caught up. Yeah. And I'm sure, I talk about we could be in an industry where we're making widgets, but we're actually helping people, and that's pretty darn rewarding.
That's true.
Yeah. How do you, is that something that you talk with your staff about?
We talk about that a lot, actually. In every meeting, I remind our staff that the core of our business is customer service. So you treat your customers right, treat the clients right. You understand that every case is their lives, and have respect for that, and they will come back.
Yeah. Yes. Good mantra. So I've known you for years. Juan, you're a great community guy. I think that you have the heart for the community, heart for the injured worker. You were just given an award by Latino Comp. Is that right? In December?
They gave me a placard of recognition for the work that we've done with them.
Yeah, very cool. Why?
At the time, I was just a regular member, and I was very involved in all of the work that they were doing in Northern California with their expansion. And they decided to give us recognition in two ways. And when I say us, I'm referring to myself and Colleen Moraga of Center for Neuroskills, who was also involved in everything that has happened in Northern California. The first thing they did was they gave us the placard of recognition and honored us with, the unexpected presentation of it during the holiday party. And the other thing is, right after the holiday party, they made Colleen and I voting members of their board.
Wow, fantastic.
Yes.
Fantastic.
It's a big honor to work with those guys.
Yeah. Yeah, they're so inclusive, and I'm curious, what's going on? What kind of work are we actually trying to accomplish? We're getting together, we have power, but then what?
Yeah, well, the goal here is to increase the quality of representation at the board. So I think it's a combination. The approach is education and also, community networking, bringing the defense and the applicant sides of the bar together and also being more inclusive with the vendors, of people who provide services that are necessary for the injured workers.
Great. Yeah. So there's talks of a possible legislative reform, a new Senate bill this year. If you had a magic wand, what would you do?
I would eliminate the MPN.
Okay.
Or I would make a one list for the entire state that's not selected or monitored arbitrarily. Maybe form a committee or put the state in charge of who gets appointed and who gets removed from the MPN list. Just take the power out of the hands of the insurance company. I think that's one of the biggest hurdles that we have is access to medical treatment. And probably the second thing that I would do is eliminate the QME panel process. I think the system worked better when you could just get your own expert.
Yeah, and tell us how that works, how the MPN and the QME process works.
Sure. When you have an accepted case, each employer has the option of maintaining a list of medical providers that are approved within their network. And so if it's a valid list, you are required to pick someone from their list. If there is no list, then you can pick any doctor of your choosing within reason. The problem that we face is that oftentimes there are doctors listed who are either not taking new patients or they don't do workers' compensation at all, and they're not even aware that they're on the list. And so it's frustrating. It's time consuming. It requires a lot of calls, a lot of paperwork back and forth, and meanwhile, the injured worker is not getting any treatment.
Right. And that's what we're after. And then the QME process, how does that work?
So either side can object to a report from the treating doctor, and if there's an objection after a time period, you file a request for a second opinion list. The QME panel is a list that's randomly selected of 3 doctors who are registered with the state as QME doctors, and you then have each side has time to strike one of the 3 doctors from the list, and whoever is the remaining doctor is the one who gets selected. Now, once a doctor is selected, there has to be an initial appointment scheduled within a certain time period from the date of the panel. And unfortunately, in areas like in Oakland, there's some specialties like pain management where there's so few doctors and they're so busy that you're not going to get an appointment scheduled within 4 or 5 months. So typically the other side writes back to the state and says, hey, this doctor can't schedule an initial appointment timely, so we want to have a replacement panel. Now, our experience, we have cases where we've had 5 QME panels issued, which means,
Wow.
Essentially each panel took 2 to 4 months to get, and meanwhile this person still hasn't been evaluated. It's insane, the system that we have.
Wow. How do you talk to your injured workers, your clients, and what can you do, and what are there workarounds?
Yeah, I mean, you can file for a hearing. You can try to convince the judge that it's unfair, that it's an unreasonable and unnecessary delay. Some of the judges have gotten very creative. They have made handwritten lists and said, look, these are all AME quality doctors. You guys can each eliminate doctors from the list, and then we're going to appoint this doctor as a QME. That seems to work. What do we tell the clients? In the beginning, we try to prepare them for this. It's frustrating. They don't understand why it takes so long, and we don't have a good explanation for it either. It's an unfair system. There are a lot of unreasonable delays, And the reality is a lot of clients get really frustrated, and they tend to blame the applicant attorneys.
Yeah, what a frustrating system. In my experience, this is a pendulum. It kind of goes from one leaning side to the other. Do you see that too? Is that something, do you feel like we're heading in a particular direction?
I think that I have seen that in my career, but in recent times, it's the trend, in my opinion, has been taking rights away from the injured worker. And there hasn't been much compensating them for what they've lost.
Gotcha. Yeah, we'll hope for the governor to step in and support labor a little bit.
That is absolutely my hope.
Very cool. All right. Well, last question, softball question. What's your sport? Football. And your team?
The Raiders.
The Oakland Raiders?
Formerly.
What's wrong with the city of Oakland? Why can't they? Why do they hate sports teams?
I couldn't tell you. I guess it's a very confusing local government.
And you have any aspirations for leadership when it comes to Latino Comp or?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If there's some way, some role with the organization where I could do more and help more, I absolutely aspire to do that.
Yeah, great. Well, I don't have any further questions, Juan. I appreciate your time coming on this show.
Hey, thank you very much, Dan. And listen, I appreciate everything you do for the profession and for the workers' compensation community. Thank you.
It's my pleasure as well. All right, brother.
All right.